Having a bad day. It's about time that I got my way. Ah, Despicable Me 2. After reviewing A Good Day, Die Hard, one of the worst sequels and worst movies ever made, it was wonderful to get to see Despicable Me 2, a sequel that was made where you could tell that they cared about the first movie and they cared about the quality from the first movie and they cared about making the audience pleased with it. Despicable Me 2 is one of those sequels that you can just smile at and enjoy. The plot does not get more complicated, really. There's some typical animated sequel things, but what this film does right is humor. The humor in this film is amazing. Some of this movie, there's two different really parts to it. There's always the Gru and what's going on with him, and then there's the minions, and they always tie in together, of course. But let's talk about Gru. In this movie, Gru has started taking care of the kids, and he's completely, he's fully devoted to them, no longer a villain at all. In the last movie, he really bonded with them, and so he's become this good guy. And he stays a good guy, and I appreciate that because a lot of lesser sequels would make him regress. Iron Man 2! And I'm just glad they didn't do that because it's just great to see a character stay true to who he is because this is who he really is. He just didn't have the care that he needed as a kid, and it's great to see him rise above what he was before. And he's still funny, he's still interesting. He does some bad things a little bit, but I mean, nowhere near as bad as what he did in the other one, but they're funny anyway. And in this one, the anti-villain league recruits him to fight a villain, so they ask Gru for his help to figure out there's this villain who's stolen this substance that will enhance creatures and make them super strong, and it's kind of like steroids, except for it turns them into giant purple monsters. Pretty interesting anyway. Basically, turns them into purple Hulks. At first, Gru's like, no, this isn't for me. I don't like this. So, Gru at first says no, but later he reconsiders, and he's also got a love interest in this one. Lucy is her name, and it's played by Kristen Wiig. And if you love Kristen Wiig in Bridesmaids, if you loved her in that, you'll love her in this. She's funny, and she's got a great personality. Of course, it's kids' humor funny. She's toned down from what some of the stuff like in Bridesmaids, but she still has that just funny personality that just eeps out of her all the time, and that's wonderful. And it makes for a great extra character. And the kids in this one, they're like, they hint at, hey, we need a mom, we really wish we had a mom. Everyone else has a mom, why don't we? And I thought that was interesting because I like how they brought mom and dad into it. It's one of those things that Pixar doesn't always do, which Pixar is the best, but they always seem to have a divided family with the exception of a few movies like The Incredibles. Either a parent's dead or just does not get mentioned. So it was interesting to see that. In this one, there's this villain, of course, and they have to find out who it is. And the character's name, I won't tell you because I guess it's kind of a spoiler if you haven't watched it, but it's an interesting villain, and his intro is hilarious and inventive. And some of the stuff in this movie, like, the physics in this movie, of course, will not work out. It's animated. It's like Looney Tunes a little bit with some things. How it's, like, over the top and zany and just hilarious and enjoyable. And then you got the minions. The minions are funnier than they were in the last one. The directors and the writing for this film is pretty smart because they know how to play with slapstick the right way, where it's like, you're expecting it to happen this way, but it happens that way enough that you get surprises as far as it's going to happen, but you don't know how. And I like that. I like being on the, looking for the next laugh. And they have some really clever things, like they have a song that they sing in Minion, and it's To I Swear, and the word they use instead is just hysterical, and it's just a really good time. The only real problems the film has to deal with the fact that I felt the same way with the first movie, is that the beginning is not as enjoyable as the rest of the movie. It's not that it's bad. It's just that it's not as good as what the movie ends up building up to, which really speaks to how well they pace it as far as they go. We start here, and it starts out kind of slow, and we get the story going, and then we get there. But at the same time, having that little bump at the beginning is a little bit rough for me to get used to, and they did in the first movie too. But they build up so well towards the end that I was like, okay, you have excellent film there, either way. And then Dr. Nefario is still in this, and he's still one of those characters that's not really, he's the weakest written of all of them in my opinion. And there are moments where I did not like his character, and there's moments where he uses cliches to explain his motivations for things, and I'm like, he's not an awful character, he's just not well written. It's like they don't know what they want to do with him sometimes, kind of like how they handle Pepper Potts, but thankfully they were smart enough to have him less in this one than they had Pepper Potts like in Iron Man 3, because that's where they had more problems with who she was, is 2 and 3, not the first Iron Man, just to be clear. And I thought that was a bit of a problem. And this film really, it doesn't have the heart of Monsters University, where at the end of the movie, is about Mike and Sully become friends. You know that from the get-go. And that the heart of that. But there is enough like sentimentality. It's not like a strong amount. You still care about these characters because if you're invested from the first movie, you still care about them. But there's not the heart of like a Pixar movie or the depth, and that is a weakness of the film. But at the same time, the filmmakers really knew what they're doing by making a fun, good time. It's a good sequel. For me personally, it lives up to the original. Some people say not quite as good, but there's always people like that, and I can totally see that point of view. But for me personally, I'd say it's about even with it. I would give it 4.25 stars out of 5 stars, which means it's chocolate chip cookie cake with a fourth of a steak. And that, my friends, is how sequels should be done. So tell me, what do you think of the Despicable Me series? What's your favorite animated movie series? Mine is Toy Story, and that's just because of the depth of it, the beauty of the animation, the power of the characters and their story and how they evolve over the years, and I just really love that story. But Despicable Me is my favorite, one of my favorite non-Pixar series. It's just hilarious and fun and funny, and I hope it keeps. They have a Minions movie coming out next year, and I'm looking forward to it, and I hope that they still have a really good storyline for it. And why do you like Despicable Me? Is it just the Minions, or do you like Gru too? I like Gru and the Minions, and I think it's good to have a balance because I think without the people, it likes the. It's kind of like the problem with Transformers, how the people scenes are not as cool as the robot scenes to some people. But I think if you could find a way to mesh them better, that would make better movies. And I think in Despicable Me, they understand that. They understand how to mesh these two worlds and get the best of both for the most part. So tell me what you thought of this movie and what you think of animated sequels in general. And are you looking forward to this movie? Have you seen it already? Just let me know what you thought. And do you agree with me or do you not? Just let me know and let me know why. And feel free to give me a like and subscribe.